And good morning, everyone. Please let me welcome in the order of appearance here, Juliette. Please, you want to sit near by me so everybody can see you, okay? And Hugo, please, in the middle, right? And Chiara, please have a seat as well. So a pleasure being here. And to start with this first important panel, we are meant to set a little bit the scene following the very nice keynote from our colleague earlier. And I will pick up some of the points that she raised, in fact, very much interesting and relevant for our discussion. So I don't need to introduce you, but maybe just quickly. So Juliette, in fact, so you actually have a very interesting role at ESA, thinking about the future mission and architecture at the Earth Observation Directorate. Ugo Zunker, I'm very pleased to see you here, to be honest. It's been a while that we didn't talk. In fact, Ugo is the Deputy Director of Earth Observation at DEVIS, and very much one of the key, I will say, minds behind Copernicus Services, Evolution, and we're very pleased to hear from you in a moment as well. And of course, Chiara, so with your role on the exploitation of downstream sector is very much relevant for our audience here that I remind are Earth observation data providers, value-added service providers, but also now more integrated companies actually also build satellites in certain extent. So without further ado, let's delve into the conversations of today. And we'll start a little bit with some important aspects, which is the funding, in fact, to the sector. Public sector funding is very important to the space sector, but also for the Earth observation, because it's very much linked to the policy making, how Earth observation can support, in fact, important policies to be actually unfolded. So I will start probably with Davis, with Ugo, and I think it's important you can, and then I will give the floor to the ladies as well. This time, men first, so for once, gentlemen first. Considering the rapidly evolving of the global geopolitical context and the EU ambition to support innovation and competitiveness of the European industry better, what do you see? Where do you see the key opportunities and challenges for the European industry? And then we can jump, and maybe you can already start linking about the budgetary considerations that come across for the upcoming multi-annual financial framework for the Commission. So let's start with Ugo, please.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Carla. So, yes, as you correctly pointed out, so there are, compared to 7 years ago, there are a couple of new developments in the geopolitical context. Everyone is aware of that, which means that there is clearly, besides, for instance, all these, for Earth observation, besides all the civil and environmental aspects, we heard about climate a couple of minutes ago and the importance of this for our livelihoods. And so beside there is, of course, now a much greater interest and much greater push as well to look at dual use capability and to see how we can use Earth observation as well to improve our resilience and security of everyone. So having said that, and there are maybe as well a important trend is that we try to go away from exclusively publicly funded Earth observation infrastructure. And so we are trying to find ways to exploit as well the capacity of industry and of, in particular, these so-called new space actors and how they can contribute to our programs. So this means the market is opening up, I think, for new entrants from industry. That is true for Earth observation, but as well there are opportunities in the communication area. For instance, the IRIS², some of you will know, that's a program for secure communication, and in other sectors as well. So many of the private constellations that we see today are bringing, I would say, different properties than maybe the Sentinels and the public funded missions have. So in general, these missions are more agile in terms of maybe sometimes in terms of tasking even and mission planning, but as well the companies themselves are more agile to respond to evolving user needs and so on and so forth. Often these constellations have higher revisit times than maybe our Sentinel satellites, and which results often for some applications at least in a better service coverage. And I think so. This is something where we see the interest of combining these two characteristics of public and private observation infrastructure here in a so-called hybrid approach to try to get the best from both both worlds, if you want to say so. No? I think another thing we can observe in this sector of Earth observation, there's a trend to go from the companies to go from mere provision of observation data to more vertical service provision. So this is something which has, for us, now looking at Copernicus, has in some areas that's good. For other areas, that's maybe less interesting. So that has to be seen, I would say, more or less on a case-by-case basis. No? Yes, I think I would like to mention on the hybrid constellations, I think there's a survey currently open to industry players on their views on how these hybrid constellations might look like. And I think the event secretariat is going to share that after the meeting with everyone, so that I invite you warmly to participate in this survey. Okay. Now, what are the challenges with private sector involvement? And I'm coming to the end. No worries.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's okay. Go.
So, for many of these constellations, we see there's a question of sustainability. So, are these constellations going to be there in 5 years, 10 years from now? In some cases as well, the scalability. So it's interesting, but maybe somehow revisit times is not good enough, and so on. Do they have the ability to scale up to fully meet the needs? We have to see here that, in particular, the public administrations and public sector in general, they need really a long perspective in order to start relying on these things. No? So we have heard about the municipalities, which have, for them, it's sometimes a painful process to integrate Earth observation in their workflows. So, and they do this investment, which is for them, in some cases, really significant investment, only if they have the trust and the perspective that this is going to last and is not going away. Another aspect is the tasking schemes. For certain applications, we need to be able to task satellites in a reliable and in a predictable way. So this means we need to be reasonably sure that we get a response on this tasking. That's with some commercial constellation. That's still a critical element. So they have priorities that we don't control. And lastly, I think a challenge for everyone is to how to embrace all these new digital paradigms that we see around us now: AI, machine learning, agent-driven processes, and so on and so forth. So high-performance computing is going to be a challenge, in particular considering that the amount of Earth observation data that is going to be available is increasing and increasing exponentially, and how to deal with this and how to get something concrete and useful out of this is a challenge for all of us, I'd say. Yeah. Thank you.
So, no, thank you very much. It's very interesting to set the scene, in fact. And maybe I can jump here to in fact, Juliette. So, and probably also the last point, I think Isa is also working a lot on this. Can you please elaborate from your standpoint what are the key opportunities and challenges? And we will then come to Chiara as well. I think the points that were touched upon, you know, the digitalization in a way, how integrated, integrated different types of satellites, data, and constellations and services. Please, Julie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So on ESA's side, we have, I would say a regular barometer of what is the interest in our member state in space with the ministerial. We had the ministerial in November last year, which was a very huge success for Earth observation. And that tells us that Earth observation is very strongly valued by our member state. They are willing to invest in the program that we are proposing to them. They were all overall oversubscribed. And it tells us that the space is recognized also based on what we could propose to a member state, where how we elaborated our program, is really recognized as a strategic infrastructure overall. And that means that it's not only satellites, not only data, it's the full chain that is of interest of Europe to generate a trusted source of data that answer the needs, but also to go to actionable information and work more in the upstream part, in the preparation of future. But we have stronger and stronger interaction with all my colleagues in the downstream part. And as an example, the Futurio program was really restructure all the Earth Action program to make it more visible, smooth boundaries between science application, so more hybrid in some ways, but I don't want to steal your, your terminology. And so we have all those programs. They're all in some way related to the EU space program. Futurio prepares Copernicus as well. Digital Twinners is associated to EU program. InCube is a good provider of contributing mission for Copernicus as well. Copernicus or Meteo are the big operational program, and now ERSEO is the new program we'll more discuss later. So in terms of these are programs that are in which, these are optional program of ESA, meaning that nobody is, the decision-making by member state to subscribe in their program is really their own. They really own the program, they decide to invest in them, and that's really a good sign of trust. And that means that we have key opportunities coming right away. We are implementing starting ITT for the European industry. You probably have seen some of them. There are more to come. We are delivering on satellite. We have launched more than 2,000 satellites last year. We have, I think, 48 planned in 2026. So that means data for you to support all this. And so I have maybe one action that we have worked that is a bit novel in Futurio, which is the stepping stone action. And this is rather echoing what we heard from Alison, is trying to find new approaches. Traditionally, we had this split between science program, so Futurio, really fundamental science, trying to look at long-term satellite that will fly in 5-10 years, and commercial approach, or operational, going with Copernicus or Meteo program. And we see that there is a gap in what we can do. in a faster way, but still looking at what are exactly the measurement we need to do, how they would go down the whole chain of value to user, and what is the economic model that can sustain that on the long run. And that's really where we want to partner with the industry to work that. So this stepping stone approach is really not only designing a satellite, but really looking at the user uptake and so on. So I really want to advertise a bit on that. That comes with challenges for you, for the industry, and for us, of course. The challenges are to deliver. Our member states do not want to wait more. They ask us to go faster, and we are pushing that also to you to be more efficient and not duplicate what we do. To demonstrate what we can do, Europe is strong in Earth observation, and we have to continue and to keep it that way. That's a main also geopolitical strength of Europe, this current healthy ecosystem, and to get the adoption to the European citizen of the thing. So not saying anything new here. We, of course, have to, the challenge is to be sustainable, both at the industry level. We need a healthy ecosystem that can find the resources, the model, the competences to sustain that. And we need to be resilient because the threats have increased, cyber threats, supply chain and so on. And a last threat that we have, as Europe, as a continent, we are not as monolithic as the US or China. And so we have to really work together towards interoperability rather than fragmentation. And that's, there's no one solution. The solution may vary across the country, but we really have to work that together. And I think Earth observation is really an example where you have both the diversity and a large program. So in ESA, we're working toward that with you, with our member state, with the European Union. We have architecture studies, some in ERS, some in more within Futurio. We have an architecture workshop in September. We are working also with EUMETSAT with Foresight to look at what would be the MET program necessary in 2040. So it's and that will enable us to give visibility, momentum, long-term view, and a shared view, more importantly.
So thank you very much, Juliette. In fact, the long-term view is very important also for stability, for closing the business cases for our industry as well. Maybe, Chiara, I don't want to miss you in terms of opportunities and challenges you might see, and then we jump to the next.
Thank you, Carla. I would like to mention AI as an opportunity and challenge. We have seen that this is creating earth intelligence systems that are capable to actually analyze and extract operational insights that support decision-making in different areas. So I think this is a challenge, but also a very good opportunity, especially considering the speech we heard before, that is really needed key insights from people that they don't know really what is EO, how to use the data. And then I will mention also climate risks that are informing climate adaptation, and especially more data on droughts, fires, flooding, but also more broadly for food security, water resilience. So more data are provided from all the different missions, and this is very good, I think. And also I would like to mention the intelligence data. So we mentioned dual use. We are seeing this shift in the market, more data for border surveillance, maritime surveillance, but also critical infrastructure monitoring. Regarding the challenges, we see still a lot of fragmentation in the market, both on the demand and the supply side. We are working a lot on that direction. And also companies struggling a bit to scale up. And and also, given the very quickly changing geopolitical situation, companies are a bit struggling to change topics. So shifting, for example, from agriculture to defense, and yeah, this kind of shifts.
So thank you very much. We'll come back to the adoption and user uptake in a moment. Maybe you can keep the mic. I will continue with you if you don't mind, Ugo, and we'll jump to the MFF. Right? We anticipated a bit before, as we understand. So within the preparation for the next MFF, the space activities will fall under the European Competitiveness Fund, and maybe can you elaborate what's on the plate? What is on the Commission's mind on that in that regard, and also what's happening with the EU space regulation? Associated budget would be embedded into the ECF. So please, if you can share some light on these aspects, would be super.
Yes, thank you, Carla. So maybe I would like. Firstly, to emphasize that this is all this is still in the making, of course, yeah. Largely between member states, or in the European Council or Council of the European Union, and so on, European Parliament, and so on. So we know what we have proposed. So the Commission has made a proposal for the next MFF. And so in the next MFF, space will be part of a more broader European competitiveness fund that is addressing various areas, or 4 areas in particular. And these areas on one end are, I would say, environmental and sustainability, so clean transition, decarbonization, and so on. There's an area on health, agriculture, bioeconomy. Then there's thirdly on digital, and then finally there's an area on resilience and security, defense industry, and space, and that's where we are going to sit in the next MFF. And so that will include then Earth observation component and navigation and all these areas. No? So in total for this fund, there is at the moment a proposal for, I think, 234 billion over the 7 years, and out of which for this 4th area, resilience, security, defense, industry, and space, there is 125 billion plus a bit part of some horizontal things where we will get a proportional share. So maybe in this context I should mention as well, there is as well, of course, a future framework program for research and innovation, so Future Horizon, whatever it's going to be called, which is proposed to have another 175 billion over the 7 years. And what is interesting, and I think we are quite keen to see that in working. So the one pillar, or the second pillar of this future framework program, is going to mirror exactly these 4 areas I mentioned before. This means that we hope that, or we think that will greatly facilitate I would say, the transition from research to innovation, and so both programs together will really better support basically the full investment journey for companies from really research and development stage in the beginning through the famous valley of death until you are then hopefully on a market. So that's new, but that's again the Future Horizon is going to be a separate legal base. But I wanted to mention it because the synergies is quite important here. I think there will be provisions as well that the eligibility for these 2 programs are going to be closely aligned. So We want to avoid situation that someone participates in a research project and then all of a sudden cannot participate in the operational part or the other way around. Yes, so I think we mentioned there's overall this multi-annual financial perspective, which is the overarching framework. This is around 2 trillion euros, so these are 2,000 billion. So these are figures where where you don't work too much, maybe in day to day. But so this is corresponding to 1.26% of the gross national income of the EU, which is a slight increase, but we have to see that there is as well significantly wider tasks that have been given to the European Union and so on. Okay. So on all these, the decisions have been started. The discussions with and between member states, as I mentioned, have been started. For the ECF, which is now our regulation, there is at the moment a compromise text has been established by the Cypriot presidency, and with the ambition to achieve what we call a partial general approach during the General Affairs Council next week. So this means basically that Council says, okay, on wide areas of this, we do not agree, and there are only a limited number of areas that are still open. For instance, like the funding, unfortunately. So
important one. Okay. Okay. May I just quickly clarify one thing? So in this ECF, so and the pillar that regards the security resilience, including defense, so is space treated as one of the domains, so transversally, or will it have a retainer form of direct allocations as a minimum viable, for example, for continuity of Copernicus, allocated budget, or will be, can you please clarify just these aspects?
Yes, I think there will be, at the end, there will be figures for the let's say, the sub-components or whatever you might call that. But these figures are not yet yet
they will
decided.
Be, so.
So, but they will be in the ECF. There are at the moment placeholders for these figures. So we know what we have proposed, but we are, as usual, we don't know what we.
That's already some information. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. So Juliette, maybe if we can jump to your perspective. And of course, as you mentioned, so the last year's ministerial was very successful for the Earth Observation, in fact, Directorate. And I would like to delve on the link between the Commission and ESA in regard to resilience, for example, and some upcoming programs. How can this be leveraged? These cooperations between DEVIS and ESA, and we have seen also the nice meeting you had last week or a couple of 10 days ago. So please let us know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm surprised you asked this question. I hope everyone here is convinced that yes, there is a way to leverage our action in that thing. So, as I mentioned, all our programs have some relationship of various nature with the EU, in Earth observation in particular. So, of course, we are having a high-level dialogue with DEFIS and USPA, as we had this event last week in Rome, in Frascati. But already in the preparation of our program, we were intensely discussing and interacting with the Commission to frame, in particular, ERSEO. Quite challenging for all of us. The program did not exist in ESA yet. The program did not exist in the Commission yet. Yet we were able to define what were the consensus on the programmatic principle we would apply, and we were able to have the support of our member state, more importantly, to approve the implementation rules of our program so that they prepare for a future EU part in EOGS. And with the agreement of the Commission that this was the way to go. So there's this anticipation of that. We worked also with USPA on already framing a security risk analysis to set up the initial framework. So the security risk analysis is on USPA, but that we were contributing with our first thought, what we had, and that is the level of work for ERS, for resilience. In Copernicus, it's, I would say, much more long-term view. It's existing for 30 years now. So that's, I would say, interaction on every level, and we have more a long-term scenario and a continuity of action or way of working that we can expect.
Yeah. And if I may contribute on this, there is also the stepping stones missions. You just mentioned that, and this will also potentially probably require more cooperation with USPA as well when we involve the users.
So not at this moment. I mean, I would welcome that. We deliberately framed the stepping stones. For us, the shift was to say, coming from a purely science-driven activity, so from Futurio, to look at policy-driven mission, so not targeting the fifth decimal of a parameter, but targeting what is the fit for purpose, what is the best tool, and looking at the end of the chain. Part of it was clearly inspired with the notion of hybrid constellation that was put forward with the Commission. But what we want is to have the initial, technological, meaning in a large sense, from end-to-end performance and design of things without any commitment from the Commission. We didn't want to feel any stakeholders bound by that, because it is still an experiment. We are trying to innovate. There's a risk taking. The risk is taken by ESA through this program, through this ITT that is coming soon, to define. And then, of course, when we are aiming for 4 study, we will do our best to find a venue to make them happen. But at this moment, we really want first the proposal to come.
Understood.
And the target is environmental policy, so it can be very local. It can be European regulation. It can be national. It can be international agreement. And there is, you mentioned some example where it's, thermal island, carbon. And of course, we are aiming for things that are challenging, not the one that already exists, because there are already fleets of small sats and data and existing business models. Okay. So we want to help you go to the next step, keep the edge that Europe currently has.
Yeah, but environment is, in fact, a key topic. Maybe for Chiara, we are seeing that, in fact, USPA's role is required to potentially change in the future, expanding as well. And maybe we can focus now on the downstream and potentially involving different or more new markets. Possibly, can you please explain and elaborate a little bit more on that and how you think of connecting with the end users as well as with the private sector?
Thank you, Carla, for the questions. Indeed, as mentioned by Ugo, there will be these policies, EU Space Act and the EU Competitiveness Fund that will impact our role and I would say expand our role. So EU Space Act, I will give just an example related to SSA. So today we already operate the space surveillance and tracking front desk. This role will be expanded under the EU Space Act. Then regarding the EU fund, commercialization fund, indeed, USPA will continue its role in innovation, also strengthen European resilience and strategic positioning in the market. We will continue to support SMEs and startups in that direction, but also to foster the innovation through the integration of Copernicus-based solution, but also with synergies with other components of the space program in different market areas. Also, we will continue to provide market intelligence. In this regard, I would like to mention that we recently published our EU Space Market Report.
Indeed, have a look.
Yeah, this time including also SSA and Secure Satcom. So it's really a big report with overview of the main market trends, also policies aspects that are impacting the growth of the market. And we have seen that in 2024, the Earth observation data and services market was at a size of 3.5 billion euros and is expected to grow until 2034 to about 8 billion euros. So this is very positive. We have seen this trend mainly driven by agriculture, of course, driven by the growing demand of food demand, also for the growing population. We are very 8 billion or more now in the world. So, and also for the energy part, energy and raw material is a very important market segment driven by the shift to renewable energies, also supporting the EU ambition of resilience. And also we have seen climate, of course. We have spoken already about climate risks, climate adaptation strategies. And yeah, we actually had a very successful workshop on climate risks for the insurance and finance sector last week, together with DigiDefis, where we brought together a community around 300 people of users spanning from private banking sector like ING, Raiffeisen Bank, but also European Central Bank, the Pension Banking Authority, EIOPA, and others. So we are continuing working with the users in that direction to see what are their priorities. So yeah,
and that's very important for this audience as well. So maybe I can come back to Hugo to discuss a little bit around. We mentioned environment, and we think it's very important. But there are also other priority, like we will see more in the next panel later in terms of defense. But let's speak about dual use and potentially even climate and climate observations and data actually might be useful for defense and security as well. So how the governance structure are evolving to address these dual aspects, and do you see any future convergence? Tricky question.
Yes, I think. Well, let me start with in this ECF regulation, in the part on Earth observation, we have set out two pillars in Earth observation. So one is the continuation of the Copernicus program. I would say largely, not exactly largely, but largely in the form it's right now. So, and the second one is indeed the new a proposal for a new Earth observation governmental service that was briefly mentioned already by Juliette. So, and for the second component, clearly there will be a new specific governance that will be much more involving our member states through the council will play a much larger role there, and so because it's not in the community pillar of the European Union, but in the intergovernmental pillar of the Union, or this common security defense policy, and so on and so forth. No? So there has to be a different governance. And so we have decided basically to split this a bit from the Copernicus, not to kind of have too much impact of these new governance requirements onto the existing and running program that we have there. No? Clearly, there are a number of areas where there is a kind of spillover between these two components. So, if you think about Arctic, where, for instance, climate change leads to changes in the ice coverage and so on. So this means that shipping routes are viable now that have not been viable a couple of years ago. So, and all this has a very strong impact on the security domain and the security policies. So climate climate as well. There is of course, there's a kind of migration pressure, maybe in some cases, that is increasing through climate change, and so there are quite a number of areas where there's a spillover. Clearly, there's maybe as well benefits for Copernicus from the security, from the dual use component. Clearly, it's called even dual use. So this means that there can be declassified data that may be useful for the classical Copernicus services and so on and so forth. So that's very complex landscape. I would like, yes, indeed, as Chiara mentioned, USPA is USPA's role is to manage and keep or be the keeper of the overall security requirements for this whole lot of services, and clearly, yes, there's as well, of course, a link with the with this ESA's activities on EIS. No? So yes, so the governance in a summary, the governance has to be complemented or expanded for this dual-use governmental service. That is going to be a new component in the space program. On the other side, for Copernicus, we will keep, or we're thinking to keep the full free and open data policy with the limitations that are already in place there since 2011 or whenever that was decided. So, which basically say in case of security need, there can be limitations to the full open and free data policy. Yeah. I think we will have to think about as well technical means to be able to react to these requests in a more differentiated way, maybe than we do today, because these requests are, again, through the changed geopolitical situation, are coming more frequently than maybe before.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And I think probably I just would like to close these aspects on the governments and the policies. We also had a nice meeting yesterday at DEFIS in regard to potentially the EU Space Act and how it's impacting this industry. I will not, discuss about the safety or, there is the resilience aspect, which is interesting. But let's focus a little bit on the environmental pillar, right? So how do you think, is DEFIS overall, of course, besides the aspects related to the EU Space Act, working with the broader European Commission now and simplify, update the environmental regulation, and in which direction, maybe I would be interested to understand that. Of course, when we speak about market forecast, regulatory, and especially when it comes to environment, is pretty important. So it would be nice to have a little bit of direction in that regard. Thanks.
Yes.
And now, because the discussion is how much you can actually a little bit advise to use satellite data for monitoring your environmental impact, and until which point would be demanded or requested or suggested.
Yes, we are working together with our colleagues from the Joint Research Center, so DG DEFIS and JRC together have built something that is called the Knowledge Center for Earth Observation, which is mostly an internal resource to the Commission. So we are working with our colleagues from all the other policy DGs in a quite a long process to identify opportunities for Earth observation, to make them aware of what they could get, and eventually to update or revise legislation that at least the use of Earth observation is enabled. No? There are still quite a number of cases where legislation basically prescribes very detailed the way certain aspects are to be dealt with, and Earth observation is in many cases not still in there. No? So this is clearly a process which is slow, which is something for the long run, but we have achieved quite a significant increase of mentioning and referring to Earth observation and Copernicus specifically in quite a number of legislation documents. So slowly this shows some effect, and I think that's a key enabler for doing that. Yeah. There's a link as well with another political priority of the Commission to decrease the administrative burden for economic operators and member states and so on and so forth. And I think with Earth observation we can make a significant contribution to that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Probably I would like to leave these last 10 minutes before the closing remarks to the nice questions that were put on screen from the audience. Maybe we can start with that, and then I will close the panel at the end. So if you can please project again the sliders. And we have an anonymous person. I would like first to start with the direct questions, because I think it's nice to have a name, Giovanni, and the person, Juliette. So you mentioned stepping stone as also the need to shorten the time to space of the initiative. What are ESA doing to reduce red tape and move forward to performance-based contract with the industry? Very relevant question. Please, Juliette, the floor. I can give you mine. No.
Okay. So there's two things I would say. There is the time to contract and there is the time to delivery. And they are both important. We have worked a lot to reduce the time to contract indicators ESA-wide, in Earth observation in particular. I think in the last, 5 years, we have reduced by 50%. So it's better than it used to be. It's still not perfect, but we have various mechanisms. I would say also for more maybe the downstream activities, my colleagues are doing great efforts to help industry that is more smaller scale often to navigate how to answer an ESA contract, how to size opportunity and so on. So can always do better, but there's the time to contract. I think it's something that we analyze carefully. We have to leave you the time to bid and to write answer, and if possible, not only between 15th of July and 15th of August, although the stepping stone might be around that range. We have managed to have all the ERS, CO, main ITTs before this summer period. That's, for example. Then the time to delivery and also performance-based contract to the industry, again, a bit too different. We are really working in all the, maybe talking more about the satellite mission, when we are going to smaller satellite, whether it's Scouts, possibly the stepping stones to have more hands-off approach from ESA. And as some of my colleagues say, we have to be hands-off but brains-on, so that's also discussing. And the IODs for ERSEO is a kind of an interesting model where we really try to sort out how can we not request any document from ESA, but ask industry, tell us which document you are writing for yourself, and give them to us. And let's do the checks and balance. You propose what you can guarantee us to ensure that we are confident that you are delivering, but by
and then be more
ways.
performance-based rather than, you know.
So that's a bit trying to shift the work on that. It's not always easy. I mean, there are both traditions. You have different actors that have different way of working. We can adapt in some ways, but sometimes we also have to be accountable to our member state, our program that we are doing a pan-European approach. So we cannot just customize everything. And then the last thing is time to deliver the satellite, the service. And that's, I think, an objective that we should share, not on ESA only. So.
Yeah, and probably next question, and for Ugo, but maybe we can elaborate, you know, and brainstorm a little bit on that. So it was also in the previous slide, so we say procurement is one of the key, most interesting things for the industry. In fact, so not only R&D, which was appreciated very much, but also procurement. And here the question is, okay, we have the contribution procurement for data. Will that also evolve around services in the future? So, and there was an interesting question from the audience on that. Regarding, I mean, to you, directed to you, but anyone is welcome to answer.
So the question is, if this dynamic procurement system would be expanded to other areas? Yeah. Well, I think at the moment it's we are not thinking about this. I mean, this dynamic procurement system has been developed together with ESA for this specific purpose. I think it's very good there. The principle, I think, is laudable. We will evolve that. We will see how we might be able to use that as well further in the context of developing this hybrid mission concepts further in order indeed not to create a huge burden with forms of this and specific annexes 1 to 10 for that and so on and so forth. No, but yes, as well as was said, clearly we have some room for maneuvering there, but well, of course, as well, all the services are responsible for managing European funds in a responsible way that is that we can respond to the European Parliament finally. No, yeah. But clearly the interest is to facilitate this as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. I think we have 5 minutes. Probably we can have some closing remarks, and there are some interesting questions. That probably in the coffee break we'll suggest the anonymous people to go and connect with our panelists. So maybe Chiara, going and looking ahead in the next 8 to 10 years, so let's say 2034 and or more, how would you see, in fact, what would you like to see implemented? And you will say, okay, we did a good job. But then I'm very proud of our collective efforts. What would be with you?
Yeah, for me it will be market size. I mentioned 8
yes,
billions by 2034. If this could be double digit, it would be better, I think, because it will mean that we are all collectively doing a good job.
Yeah, with a great share with your opinion. Fantastic, I love that. So Juliette, please.
For me, that would be, okay, 10 years from now, a very sustainable and healthy ecosystem, going maybe better bridging the upstream to downstream chain, serving citizens, and having as many perspective and projects as we have today.
Okay, thank you. Ugo?
Yes, thank you. So I think the first element, I would like Copernicus to continue to be the authoritative source for Earth observation data and services. I think this is a significant achievement, and we will should develop that and not put that at risk. No? I think I would be very happy to see if in a couple of years the connection between our data, our service output, and all the various data spaces that we see in Europe, it has been much improved. So the barrier to use all this data and to have access to this data and use it in a way people might want to use this, that should be really as low as possible. And here we have still some room for improvement. And lastly, I come back to what I said on this hybrid constellation. I would be very proud to see if we manage to have an observation infrastructure, a space, partly as well, to some extent as well, in situ infrastructure, where really public and private players work together to have the most efficient and best quality result possible. No?
So thank you very much. So if I can summarize, not to leave the men with the last word. For once, we have dominating women on the panel. So thanks to the organizers. For once, sorry, I'm just to say that. But anyway, so I would like to say very, very nice. I would like to congratulate our panelists for the nice discussion. So looking ahead, can we say that we would like to keep the European industry and sector at top edge and keep leading on this. Very important will be the race on AI that we are a bit running behind, but we'll catch up now with a new vision, hopefully. And with this, I would like to leave for the rest of the panel, the grid. Maybe you can actually give a round of applause to my speakers today.